Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and our review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, a plated daily trainer that Brooks says is designed to be fast and protective for training at top speed. It comes with a bigger, softer midsole stack than the Hyperion Max, a plate to add stiffness, a pronounced rocker for snappy rolls. We've got new lightweight mesh uppers and a very, very pretty new look. But is it the faster trainer you've been looking for? Well, we're here with a multi-tester review to help you decide. Those quick details first then. The stack height comes in at 34 mils in the heel, 28 mils in the forefoot for a 6 mil drop. It weighs in at 9.2 ounces or 261 grams in my UK men's 8.5 test shoe. There's a couple of ounces heavier than the previous generation, but still lighter than something like a Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. On price, it will set you back £160 in the UK and $180 in the US. That's a $10 bump over the original Hyperion Max. Let's take a close look at the shoe then, and there's a big update here. Where Hyperion Max was quite similar to the Hyperion, this shoe now creates much more differentiation with that bigger, softer, now max stack of nitrogen-infused DNA Loft V2 foam. Brooks says that's 10% more responsive than the regular DNA Loft that you'll find in the Hyperion Max original shoe. There's 4 mil extra cushion under the heel, 6 mil under the toes. So the idea is more cushion, but also more response. There's a rapid roll rocker here that works in tandem with Brooks Speedvolt plate that's in the shoe that provides some stiffness. That's aiming to encourage quicker transitions and turnover. Up top, you've got a really lightweight mesh upper that keeps things pretty minimal, almost race ready. It's a very airy feel and a roomy, accommodating toe box. Nicely medium padded heel collars and gusseted wrapping tongues with just enough structure so they're not flimsy. If you flip the shoe over, there's a good covering of outsole grip in the main areas here, with this one large forefoot pad and well covered heel impact areas. There's also a bit of a groove cut out here, which could be a stone catcher.
The fit of the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, I'm a size 8 in the UK. I found this to be a very comfortable shoe at my size, so I definitely stay to my size in this shoe. It's quite a wide shoe. There's lots of space in the forefoot, bit of space in front of the toe, and it's just a very comfortable shoe. But the upper itself is actually pretty good lockdown, despite the fact that it's fairly roomy. So I did find it pretty easy to get a nice, comfortable fit straight away, and it felt absolutely fine on the run. So I'd stay to my size in this shoe.
So in testing, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my regular shoe size in Brooks, and I love the fit. It's brilliantly roomy in the toe box here, but holds well in the heels and across the midfoot. I think it's a really unfussy, easy shoe to get comfortable in, and the lightweight uppers make for a brilliant disappearing feel on the foot. In fact, it was that kind of comfortable, spacious fit more than the rider convinced me to give this shoe a go for the first section of the Berlin Wall 100 Mile Ultra. I knew I needed space for my toes to spread out, and this was one of the few shoes that I was considering that felt accommodating enough for that. But more on that later. In the meantime, overall, I would recommend going true to size in this shoe.
When it comes to the fit of the Hyperion Max 2, I've got my normal running shoe size here, which is a UK 9, which is a US 10 for Brooks. That's the size I use across the Brooks range, and it has fit me very well in that size. I've got enough room in the toe box without any kind of cramping or too much space or anything like that. I've got a good hold around the heel and midfoot. It's quite a minimal upper, but I've not had any discomfort. There's enough padding there for it to be supportive and comfortable for daily training. And the heel design is quite well done, I found. I haven't had any rubbing of my heel or Achilles or anything like that. So yeah, I would stick to your normal size with the Hyperion Max 2.
Now in testing, I've run close to 150 miles in the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. I've done a really wide range of mileage from all-out top pace efforts to slow and easy 10Ks. I also ran 41 miles of my recent Berlin Wall 100 miler in around 8 hours wearing the Hyperion Max 2. I was averaging around 10-minute miles, which is the easier end of my pace. Now I'm going to come straight out with it. I really like this shoe. For me, it improves on the Hyperion Max. That extra DNA Loft V2 cushioning adds some welcome protection, but without feeling mushy. It treads like a happy middle ground between being cushioned enough for easy miling, provided you like things a bit stiffer. There's enough snap in it as well, I think, to push marathon pace efforts comfortably too. It's perhaps not the most energetic daily trainer going. It doesn't fire you along with springy, bouncy steps. It's a bit more subtle. And I think lots of runners might want more for their all-out speed sessions. But I don't mind that kind of subtlety at all. I think this could be a really good marathon option for people who want something light and kind of racy and fast feeling, but safe in the knowledge that there's enough protection there too. It's a versatile tool to have in a rotation as well. You can kick up the gears or cruise in this shoe quite happily. It won't give you the punch of a carbon race shoe, but it will offer that light, racy feel without the risk of running tired in a shoe that's too aggressive and minimal, leaves you out to dry. The wide base here offers good stability and a reliable platform. I said it about the Nike Pegasus 24, and I think it's true here. If you're a 4 to 6 hour marathon bracket runner, this could be well worth a look for racing in. Another word on the uppers, I ran those 40 miles in Berlin in 24 to 27 degrees Celsius heat, and I really appreciated the airy feel. That was a big tick here for this shoe. When it comes to durability, I've put lots of miles in and it's showing no signs, worrying signs of wear, so I expect to be able to eat long miles as well. I also love the look of the shoe. I think this might be Brooks' best looking shoe yet, and hopefully a sign of things to come from the brand.
I've done around 55k of running in the Hyperion Max 2, using it for a range of training runs at easy and faster paces, with my longest run being a 22k easy to steady run starting at around 4:30 per k pace and moving down to around 3:40 per k pace, I'd say. And I have really enjoyed testing the shoe. I do think it's a more versatile and impressive all-round shoe than the original Hyperion Max, which I did quite like as a very lightweight, nimble trainer that was a little bit different to lots of other stuff on the market, but I don't think it was a shoe that was going to have really mass appeal. It was probably a little bit too lightweight and not comfortable enough, and didn't really fit the definition of a super trainer these days, which is to have a big stack of foam and some kind of plate in there. And I do think the Hyperion Max 2 is a much more versatile shoe, and one that I think that will work for a wider range of runners because of that. It's more comfortable when it comes to easy run pace, and it still has enough pop and speed for those faster runs, even if it's not, a really lightweight shoe like the original. So as ever with Brooks, one thing I always really value with their shoes is they do have a very consistent and a kind of resilient ride from the foams in the midsole. Like, they're not very soft and springy, these foams that Brooks has, and it's a bit of a mark against them when it comes to racing shoes and even super trainers like this, but that consistent feel underfoot does give you a bit more stability. And in the case of the Hyperion Max 2, it does mean the shoe works really well for a wide range of training runs. Like, it has enough comfort there for easy runs and long runs. The DNA flash foam does still have enough responsiveness for faster efforts. I wouldn't necessarily say it's at the top end when it comes to speed among super trainers. I think you're going to get faster shoes in this category for sure. It doesn't really have the feel of a shoe that might replace a racing shoe in any way. It wouldn't be one that I'd reach for to go and do like really hard intervals down at the track or that kind of thing. But as a daily trainer that can handle faster stuff, it does that well. It can do tempo runs, those easy to steady runs I've talked about, that kind of thing. It does them really well, and it has a lot of comfort and support for just flat out easy runs. I do think this is a shoe you can really pootle about in quite happily. So when you're looking at these super trainers, plated trainers, whatever you want to call them, it's at that more daily trainery end, and it's a shoe that you can pull on more or less every day. It doesn't necessarily have lots of flat out speed, but I do think it is a very versatile shoe, and certainly has more range than the original Hyperion Max, which I think a lot of people would have found not cushioned enough in this day and age to use for everything. Another thing I often find with Brooks shoes is that the longer you run in them, like on an individual run, the more they kind of grow on you, and that is the case with the Hyperion Max 2. Like, there's no signs of bottoming out or anything like that on that 22k run. That it just feels really good. Moving from those easy paces down to faster paces, the shoe feels pretty similar underfoot. It has that nice rocker, got a bit of pop from the foam, and at whatever speed you're moving at, it does kind of facilitate that quite well. Up to a point, like I say, I don't think it has massive top end speed. And I do think it's a shoe that'll be really good for someone who's racking up a lot of miles in marathon training, who wants to use a plated trainer, doing a lot of runs where you're not necessarily just doing lots of completely easy runs and you want a shoe that has a bit of range. It definitely has that kind of range.
So I never had the opportunity to test the original Hyperion Max, and I'd heard mixed reviews of that shoe. When I picked this shoe up, when you put it in your hand, when you pick it up, it feels quite nice. It feels like there's definitely a big sack of cushioning in there. Looks like the kind of shoe that I would like for my training, faster training, daily sessions, things like that. What I found about this shoe is that I've just been out and I've been filming some bits and pieces for various shoes, and when I did the running in this shoe with, I was trying to get some video clips of it. I noticed that it did feel a little bit hard, but it wasn't until I put on the other shoes to record some shots with those shoes, and that included things like the Brooks Ghost Max 2 and the New Balance Rebel V4. I really noticed the difference when I put those shoes on this shoe. It is very stiff, and I think for some people that works really well. This shoe, you can really feel that plate in there. You can really feel that rigid midsole. But also it's got quite a noticeable rocker in it as well. So where some shoes, especially daily shoes that are designed for faster sessions as well, some of that speed, some of that efficiency comes from the bounce in the midsole. This is all about responsiveness. It's all about that rocker motion. You can pick up quite a nice pace in this shoe, but it really doesn't work for me because regardless of what I'm using the shoe for, I still like to have a little bit of softness in the midsole. That's a preference for me. I think some people who are looking for a daily trainer that is a bit firmer, a little bit more responsive, has a little bit of a kick in it from the plate alongside that midsole foam, it probably works very well. But for me, it's a very noticeable firmer midsole and a very rigid shoe all over, thanks to that plate as well. What I would say about it though is that it feels like a very stable shoe, probably because of a combination of all of those factors, and it's got this really wide base on it as well. So it does feel like a very stable shoe when you're out on the run. So if you're the sort of runner that wants a daily training shoe that can go a bit faster, but you want something very stable, you don't want the wobbly, bouncy foams that some of the shoes have, this might be a good option for you. It definitely feels very secure on the ground. But in the testing that I've done in it, so I've done a couple of interval sessions in this and a couple of easy runs in the shoe. What I found is that on easy runs, I didn't enjoy it. It just didn't have any sort of enjoyment for me on running at a slower pace, which for me would be 5-minute kilometers. It just felt very firm, and I just didn't enjoy running in it for an extended period of time at a slower pace. When I picked up the pace in it, definitely kicked into gear then. It does feel very responsive. It does feel very peppy. It feels like you can pick up the pace quite quickly in this shoe. It doesn't feel like there's any bounce in it. It just feels like it's responsive from that firmer midsole foam, which is conducive to picking up the pace and really speeding up when you need to. But I don't think I'd want to use it for a race or for an extended period of longer training. So if I was doing something like a tempo session, if I was running for maybe a couple of hours as part of our marathon training, this just feels a little bit too uncomfortable for me because of the style of shoe it is. I much prefer a softer shoe regardless of what run I'm doing, and I think I would struggle a little bit with the stiffness in this shoe for those longer runs. I didn't dislike running in it. It just isn't really a shoe that works particularly well for me. I do think it is a solid trainer. I didn't have any major issues with it. It's my style of running, doesn't necessarily work very well with this shoe, but the rocker does work really well. And if you want a bit of a firmer ride, it's really nice to get a consistent flowing pace with this, because the rocker just pushes you forward. You get a nice kick from that plate and that responsiveness from the midsole foam. So if this shoe it looks like it'll work for you because that's the sort of shoe you want, then it's probably going to be a really good option. But for me, it just didn't really work that well. So my verdict on the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, I think it's an interesting shoe, and I think it's a specific shoe for a certain type of runner. I think if you want a firmer ride, I think if you want a stiffer plated experience, I think you want a nice rocker in a shoe. All those things are in this shoe, and for some people I think it will work really well. I think for a lot of people now that you probably expect softer rides in shoes, you expect energy return, you expect bounce, I don't think you get it from this shoe. So it does deliver on what it's trying to do, but for me it's not the right type of shoe. I much prefer shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, things like the New Balance Rebel V4, shoes that just have a little bit more give in them and a little bit more energy return when you're picking up the pace. So I definitely wouldn't use this as a marathon training shoe or anything like that. I think for me it works best at those shorter distances where I don't mind the lack of softness too much, but I wouldn't go too far in this shoe just because it's not uncomfortable. I just don't enjoy it as much as I do with some of those other shoes that have got a little bit more to the midsole than is in this shoe. But I do think it's a solid shoe from Brooks, and I think it's definitely something that will work for a lot of people. Just for me, I just want softness, as you probably know if you watch the channel.
Verdict then, and I absolutely love a versatile shoe, and this is 100% a versatile shoe up to a point. It's not the fastest, springiest, bounciest daily trainer. The ride is more subtle than that, but there is response when you push the pace. But it requires you to do some of the work first, I think. You have to run this shoe. It doesn't run you like some daily trainers might. But I like that. It's also one of those shoes that quickly vanishes into the background and just lets you go about your business. That toned down aggression and that extra cushion makes this adaptable enough to accommodate faster and slower miles. The fit and foot feel, I think, is excellent. It's light, it's roomy, it's disappearing without feeling loose. It somehow hits a balance between feeling racy and roomy. I don't think it's got the top speed of shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, but I'm going to give the Hyperion Max 2 really high praise because I think it's a shoe that's a close rival, and that cheaper price tag only adds to the appeal of this shoe.
So it comes to the verdict. I do think the Hyperion Max 2 is a really good shoe, and it's a shoe that Brooks has definitely been missing in its range, like a really versatile plated trainer. I just think they had a lot of very good, comfortable, cushioned daily trainers like the Glycerin, Ghost Max and all those, and then some quite nice, fun, lightweight shoes like the Hyperion and the Hyperion Max original, but they lacked, I think, a plated shoe like this, which is, you know, an increasingly popular kind of shoe these days that is that shoe that can do it all with a lightweight but still comfortable design like this. Obviously, this is a very, very competitive area of the market though, and the Hyperion Max, I think, does offer something a little bit different to lots of shoes by being a bit more stable and slightly firmer than some of the other shoes out there. But there are shoes out that I personally would probably rank a little bit ahead of it, or find a little bit more versatile, and or maybe just a little bit more fun. So if you are looking for a soft and springy ride from your kind of plated daily trainer, then the Mizuno Neo Vista certainly delivers more of that than the Hyperion Max 2. It's a much softer and bouncier shoe. It's a bit lighter, has similar levels of versatility, but a very fun ride if you do like that kind of soft and squishy feel underfoot. There's also the new Hoka Mach X2, which I really enjoyed testing of late. We've got a review coming soon, and that's the one shoe in particular that I think makes the Hyperion Max 2 a really hard sell, because the Mach X2 is still pretty stable and comfortable. It has the kind of same benefits on that front that the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 has, but it is bouncier, it is a bit livelier. I think it's got a bit more speed in it, and I just kind of prefer the feel of it all round. So that's one I'd probably have ahead of it as well. You've certainly got super trainers and plated trainers that have a bit more speed as well, like things like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, Adidas Boston 12. Like, I like those shoes for everything, especially the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. I do find that a comfortable shoe for easy runs. Lots of people wouldn't. I think that the Hyperion Max is probably a bit more supportive and comfortable on easy paces, but the Speed and the Boston both do have more pace when it comes to your fastest training sessions, or even looking at them as, you know, a race day option instead of very expensive carbon shoes. There's also the Puma DV8 Nitro 3 in this category, which I think is quite similar to the Brooks Hyperion Max all round, but I do prefer the Brooks. That is one shoe I just didn't really get on with the Puma all round, either in terms of the fit and the ride feel. I'd certainly prefer the Hyperion Max 2 out of those two shoes. There's some plateless options as well. If you are looking for do-it-all shoes that are quite lightweight, fast, but still comfortable, and don't want to use a plated shoe, you can look at things like the New Balance Rebel V4, the Hoka Mach 6, and the Asics Nova Blast 4. All really good shoes. You're going to get a little bit more pop out of the Hyperion Max 2 thanks to its plate, but they're fairly comparable, I think, in the runs that you could do in them, especially something like the Nova Blast, which is a very comfortable shoe. The New Balance and the Hoka maybe aren't quite cushioned enough for some people to look at doing lots of miles in, and that is the area I think the Hyperion Max 2 can stand out a bit, though, is it is a really good option for doing lots of long miles, I think, because it is supportive and stable. It has that range. You can just go out the door, run at a mix of paces quite comfortably, and, you know, do a lot of miles and then go again the next day. I think it is a really good shoe for that purpose. If you are going into a big marathon training block and don't want anything too soft and squishy underfoot for lots of daily miles, but still want a plated shoe, Hyperion Max 2 is one to look at for sure. But I would also certainly check out the Hoka Mach X2 myself. So certainly a shoe I enjoyed running in. I think it's a nice option to have on the market as a slightly more stable super trainer. Definitely a shoe Brooks needed in its range, but I think in this competitive area of the market, there are still shoes that I would pick up ahead of it. But yeah, I did like Hyperion Max 2. I think it's a good shoe.
So there you have it. That's been our review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. We hope you found it helpful. As ever, we'd love you to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you're not already. If you did enjoy it, if you've run in the Hyperion Max 2, let us know how you found it in the comments below. If you're after a daily trainer, I'm going to pop another video up on the channel now that I think you should check out. You'll enjoy that one. Go and have a look. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on the Run Testers. In the meantime, happy running, people.